Recording in progress.
Good evening. We'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting, and I'd like to call us to order. Today is Tuesday, May 7th. All board members are present in the boardroom, along with Dr. Bryantt, our superintendent, Ms. Sullivan, our executive assistant, and our student representative, Mr. Joshua Platt. So with that, Josh, would you lead us into the flag salute? The United States of America. Land acknowledgement, when you're ready.
We acknowledge that we gather here today on the traditional lands of the United people of the Upward Cook Inlet. For thousands of years, the United people have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. ASD is committed to diversity and inclusion, and it's with honor and respect that we recognize all Indigenous people who live and learn here.
Thank you, Mr. Pack. So again, we'd like to welcome you to our meeting. Thank you for attending. And we'd like to thank you for supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and of this board. We want to thank our students, teachers, our staff, school business partners, and indeed the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talents, and your tax dollars. So that brings us to item 8.3.
Madam President, I move to approve the agenda as written. Second.
Moved in second to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any opposition to the motion? Any at all? Seeing none. The agenda is approved as presented. And that brings us to item B, which is our Sine Die. That I would like to accept a motion to end the 23-24 school board year.
Before we do that, Madam President, point on the agenda, there's a section for any board member who wants to make comments.
Oh,
now
prior to,
yeah.
This would be an appropriate time.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't start with the member to my left to keep us late if we don't honor him first. So.
This is the end of our year, guys. So whatever.
Am I limited to 10 minutes or?
No 10 minutes. No, sir.
I just, as we go into a new school year, we all have new goals, objectives we want to do, and I think that's important. I will only comment before we wait that I have a lot of family members here. I should at least acknowledge them. Not sure who's all there, but I've got 6 grandkids here and a couple of daughters and a wife, so I appreciate the fact that they showed up for this.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Madam President, just wanted to thank each of the board members for a great year. We accomplished a lot and excited to jump right in for another term and another year. Also wanted to specifically thank you, Madam President, for sharing your wisdom, your leadership, your mentorship, and most recently your catfish. Looking forward to years of future collaboration and putting our students first. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Don.
I'd like to thank the staff in particular for all the work they've been doing on the academies of Anchorage. I'm so excited about this program, but I also really want to thank all the hundreds of members of the community that have turned out and volunteered and worked with our staff on this development. It's been just phenomenal, the participation from the community. So thank you very much, all of you, for volunteering to assist the school district pull this program together.
Sure. Do you have any comments? Oh, is this your last meeting?
No.
No.
There's
Okay,
another
got one more.
whole thing.
Okay.
I am attending a couple of graduations parties and ceremonies this week, so it feels like the new year is winding down, but it doesn't mean that the work never stops. I think I have a lot of ideas and things to bring forth to the table next year. I'm glad to do it with this board and their leadership.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh no, I'm chairing.
I'm very grateful for all of our staff does, all of our teachers. Grateful, like Member Donnelly, for our community stepping up to help with the academies of Anchorage and really working to partner with our district. So very excited about all that work. I would like to recognize my daughter who graduated on Sunday with her Master's of Social Work, who was also a graduate of Anchorage. Actually, she graduated from West High, but primarily went to King Tech. So wanted to throw that out there. Congratulations to her, but thank you everyone for all your work.
It has been another third year serving on the board. It is an honor to work with each of the members up here to learn from and collaborate with staff in charge of some of the initiatives and appreciate all of the work. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, and I really appreciate the work that our teachers and our parents are doing in our schools. Thank you.
It is that time of year where we're going to graduation ceremonies, also ceremonies, spring concerts. It just reminds me that every weekday, thousands of people in this town turn out to do something in relation to our schools and students. Of course, a lot of them are staff, but parents, volunteers, other members of the community step in. And of course, in the evenings, mornings, and weekends, we've got coaches, kids on field trips, and all kinds of other things going on. It's really a big deal. It's just a big deal every day for over 40,000 kids to come and be educated and go on. Also, I do want to say, depending on who are talking to us, either a National Teachers Day or National Teachers Week or National Teachers Month, I don't think it ever is going to rise to National Teachers Year, but I do want to say a special thanks to my former colleagues for what they do every day.
Right, thank you. So, I don't know, Dr. Bryantt, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Sure, I'll echo the sentiment shared. This is an exciting time of the year. We're very proud of our graduates. Our graduations have already started actually, and they'll continue going into next week, and also will be at the King Tech graduation this Friday. And we want to thank our educators for everything they do day in and day out, as well as our nurses, our bus drivers, custodians, everybody, for everything that you give to the district in support of our students. And then lastly, I'd like to thank this board for all of your support. We've accomplished a lot this past year, and next year we're looking at one of the most ambitious transformations that we've taken on as a district in a really long time, with the implementation of our academies, our sixth graders transitioning to middle school, and then the start times that we spoke about earlier today. Change can be a little scary, but we have fantastic leaders at the dais and in the room, and I'm confident next year will be the best year yet.
Thank you. So tonight we will be not only swearing in our incumbents, our members that are returning for another term, but we will also have a new slate of officers coming forward. This is my 50th year in education. I have enjoyed, it only seems like 5, and I was like 12 when I started. So, it is just the reward of a lifetime to do this work. So I have enjoyed it, and I look forward to another Sine Die in the next year. We have done amazing work. We have, and I think the most important thing that I do want to compliment board members on and to challenge us to continue to keep kids first. There are adult things that will get in our way, and we have to deal with those things, but we have to keep our kids first. So with that, I will entertain a motion to end the 23-24 school year.
Madam President, I move to adjourn the 2023-2024 school board Sine Die. Second.
Moved in second to adjourn 23-24 school year. Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing and hearing none. We are officially out of 23-24 and entering into the next phase, the next year. So, at this point, we're going to do our oath of office. Dr. Bryantt will preside as temporary chair until a new president is elected.
All right, thank you. As the superintendent of the Anchorage School District and the interim chair of the meeting, I would like to call this meeting back to order. And at this time, I would ask for Youth Court Judge Joshua Pack and Alaska Supreme Court Justice Peter Mawson to administer the oath of office to swear in our newly elected board members, Higgins, Jacobs, and Wilson.
This one's working. Yeah, thanks. I just want to say on behalf of the Alaska Anchorage Youth Board, pardon me, I am no longer a member of the board, but I was for many years. I'm very impressed by the organization. And I can't really speak for them officially anymore, but I'm sure that I can represent their sentiment. They're very grateful for all of the support that the Anchorage School District has given them over the years, and especially for inviting the Anchorage Youth Board judge to participate in the ceremonies every time that they occur. It's a very great privilege for us to be here. And at this point, the three of you will raise your right hands. I will turn it over to Judge Pat to the oath.
Please repeat after me. I say your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Alaska. I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially discharge my duties as a school board member to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. So at this time, I would like to entertain a brief at ease to sign and notarize paperwork. Yeah, sorry, I'm the chair. That's right. All right, I would like to call the meeting back to order. We will move on to item D, organization of the 24-25 school board. At this time, I would entertain nominations from the board for the slate of officers.
Mr. Chair, I would nominate member Andy Holloman as president, member Carl Jacobs as vice president, member Dora Wilson as clerk, and member Kelly Lessons as treasurer.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, seeing a second. Are there any objections to the nomination and election of officers? Seeing none, the motion carries. Congratulations. At this time, I will hand the meeting back over to our new board president, Andy Holloman.
Thank you all very much. And thank you, President Donnelly, for your leadership during this time. It's always a goal to try to be open and accommodating to the public while maintaining order. And it's not always easy. So I hope to do as well. Continuing with our agenda. Next, we have our student representative report. Mr. Pack, you have the floor.
Mr. President. So I have a couple of things. Number one, I have an update on a past resolution that I mentioned, I believe, a couple meetings ago. And it was, this is a mouthful, but under the title, Exemptions for Out-of-District Travel by Private Transportation During Extenuating Circumstances. And it was authored and presented by Polaris K-12. And since then, we've noticed a lot of discussion amongst the administration, and they have had engaged a very thorough examination of all the law and context around this issue, and they have arrived at a resolution or a solution or a conclusion. And we have the Chief Academic Officer of ASD, Sven Gustafson, and Director of Alternative Schools, Chris Bjornson, come to Polaris K-12 themselves and talk with some students from Polaris K-12 and also our principal and our student government advisor about the conclusion. And what actually occurred is that, quote, this is quoting from the document that we received. While it would certainly be convenient for a parent, teacher, or coach to transport a student to an out-of-district event, because such transportation may decrease the safety to students and potentially increase the liability on the part of ASD, I cannot approve the provision of an exemption to the student transportation guidelines. It is recommended that the Student Advisory Board work with Polaris Principal and Director of Alternative Schools to brainstorm workable solutions that fit within ASD's guidelines for travel outside the district. And so that last sentence, I think, is something that is very important for the students who authored this and who had presented the idea. And essentially what that means is that although the law says no to the initial idea, we have solutions that we can work around, which includes maybe getting our teachers commercial driving licenses, which might be a challenge, but we also have worked out maybe some reserve funds or such for smaller schools, smaller alternative schools like Polaris or Stellar Secondary School to have when they're traveling outside of the municipality. And that'll make a lot of their special programs a lot more affordable for students who do not have access. And we think that that's a big win on both sides. And from that, a big takeaway we found is that We would like to partner and bridge with more of the administration to enact change for the following school year. Mr. Gustafson and Dr. Johnson have proposed that they may attend some student advisory board meetings. So in addition to the school board member reports, we'll maybe also have some administrative assistance and conversations, which I think is essential because sometimes resolutions aren't the best way for change to happen, especially if it's something that can be changed immediately. And through the conversation we had, seems like in the following year, we're going to look towards incorporating more student voices, not just through resolutions, but through just direct conversations with the administration. So looking very forward to that. And I just thank the administration. And then I believe it was last meeting that Member Lessons did want me to expound on my trip to Reykjavik with the Alaska Association of Student Governments. So I have a little bit more of a report this time as a student representative, just one of the many students who went there out of all across the state. So when we arrived, the hotel was about a 30-second walk from the airport, but there was a bunch of wind, it was freezing cold, and we got there. I believe the sun didn't set until 2 or 3 a.m. So it really seemed like it had sunlight 24/7 early on, but it was really offsetting because the snow and it was very cold. And from the hotel, it was about a minute walk to the high school that all the conference actions were going to take. And on the first day of the conference, we had some words of wisdom from the community elders. We also had a new PX dancing and drumming performance, which was wonderful. And something I took away is that the words from, I believe, the mayor of Vero or Reykjavik was the power of listening. And he said that he could talk for hours, but he thinks that his most important role is to listen. And as leaders, I think that's something we should always keep in mind. And outside of the resolution work and a lot of the intense debate that we had in our general assemblies, much like in other public office settings, we had opportunities to explore Reykjavik. We also had a chance to eat some muktak. And in that muktak platter, there was actually kimchi in the middle. It was a nice combination of cultures. And we also participated in Native Youth Olympics. I was sore for a whole week, but I thought it was worth it. And I think it was a wonderful experience, and everyone who attended seemed, I think a lot of people were crying after the trip ended, and I think it was a powerful conference. The theme was inclusion ignites change, and that was the essence of the conference. So from my experience, I think it was a wonderful one, and the next trip will be in Tri-Valley, I believe. Oh, no, it'll be in Delta Tri-Valley, and it will be held in fall. So we'll have things to talk about that, and I'm looking forward to working with our new region representative for Anchorage to have more Anchorage schools attend. We only had 3, and none of them were the big 8, besides Eagle River. So we want to bring the best of Anchorage for those coming conferences. And finally, up there is an opportunity for the coming school year for initiating a student board members association for the state, which is like for students like me, we get to create a network for other school board student members so that we can communicate our issues. And since our times and our boards are so short, we can transfer the traditions, skills, and all experiences that can live down and help students the best. So we actually have someone from Nevada who's their state board member reach out to us. And so that's very preliminary, but in the coming year, I hope that can pick up, because I do know a fair amount of our school boards actually have student members in the state. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda, item F, goal monitoring, math proficiency, goal monitoring report. Superintendent Bryantt.
Thank you, Mr. President. So today is our technical report on our math proficiency goal. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So first, an update on our previous interim goal 2.3. We're pleased to report that we met our catch-up growth goal. 30.03% of students in grades 3 through 9 who are below benchmark made catch-up growth from fall 2022 to spring 2023, and our goal was 23%. So that's a huge milestone that I wanted to highlight and celebrate. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right. So on this slide, we restate our board goal. And now that the AK STAR data is in, we hope to finalize our goals with the board at our retreat. So today's focus is on interim goal 2.3, which is to increase catch-up growth from 29.4% to 39% by spring 2028. This is for students in grades 3 through 8. So we made this adjustment from grades 3 through 9 per our last board goals retreat. This slide shows the progress to date with 31.5% of grades 3 through 8 students achieving catch-up growth. The dotted lines on the graph show our yearly targets, and currently we are on target to meet this interim goal. And this slide breaks down the catch-up growth by grade level. And you'll also find on this slide the rates of participation in testing on the slide. And then on this slide, you'll find the catch-up growth broken down by race and ethnicity. And on the rightmost column, you'll see the percent of students who are below the benchmark in the fall that have demonstrated high growth in the spring. That's the rightmost column. And then on this slide, you'll find the data disaggregated by gender and special subpopulations, including our special education students. And then the next few slides will provide an overview of our next steps. So this slide provides an overview of our approach to improving catch-up growth in math, which includes professional learning, instructional improvement cycles, as well as data monitoring. And then this slide shows progress to date on the implementation plan in the areas of curriculum, professional learning, data discussions, and multi-tiered systems of support. This slide specifically captures those steps for grades 3 through 5. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see the progress to date. Same information, but this would be for grades 6 through 8. And that concludes today's technical presentation, and our goal monitoring will take place at our next board meeting where we can dive into this data set and more. So please submit the questions to the administration, and we look forward to that conversation.
Do any members have questions? Seeing and hearing none, we will move to item G, public comment on non-agenda and non-action items. If I'm correct, we have no students signed up to speak. We give them time at the beginning. Also, I want to note that item 145 is moved to an action item because we do have a speaker signed up to speak to that as an action item. We're happy that you're joining us today. If this is your first time, below are some of the basic rules and aids to navigate the boardroom during meetings. During public comments, board members will not answer questions or engage in discussion with members of the public. This is the public's time to speak to the board and the board's time to listen. Comments on non-agenda items. If you're here to participate during public comment, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Each person is allowed 1 opportunity to testify on a non-agenda, non-action item. When 30 seconds remain, you'll hear a bell and there's a timer on the screen right in front of me. On action items, is first introduced by the vice president and if seconded by another board member, the president will open the floor for public comment. You will have 3 minutes to speak. When 30 seconds remaining, a bell will ring to inform you so that you can wrap up your testimony. School board welcomes the public to observe and contribute to our meetings through comments, but to be productive, our meetings must remain structured and civil. Rules in the boardroom do not attack a member or speaker's motives. Speakers may point out what she or he believes to be natural consequences of a board action, but may not engage in speech that personally attacks other people. Please refrain from disturbing the meeting. No cheering, applause, or outbursts. Attendees will not be permitted to interrupt the business of the school board. No profanity or vulgarity. There is no place in a public meeting of the board for profanity or swearing. No waving of signs, flyers, or posters. If you do have handouts that you wish to share with the board, please give them to the school board assistant who is seated immediately to my left. No disturbance or willful interruption of any school board meetings will be permitted. Persistence by an individual or group shall be grounds for the chair to terminate the privilege of addressing the meeting. The school board may remove disruptive individuals and order the room cleared if necessary. No oral presentation shall include charges or complaints against any employee of the school board, including the superintendent, regardless of whether or not the employee is identified by name or another reference which tends to identify the person. Charges or complaints must be submitted to the school board under the provisions of school board policy and administrative regulations related to such complaints. School board president has a duty to enforce these rules of civility and decorum. As such, speakers may be ruled out of order for a violation of these rules. Anyone that does not adhere to these rules and fails to conduct themselves in a civil manner may be removed. We set aside an hour at the beginning. I don't think we'll use that much time tonight, but we welcome your comments. They are very important to us in conducting the business of the district. First, we have telephonic Natasha Guthrie. Ms. Guthrie, can you hear me? If you are on the phone, if you press *6, that will unmute you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Natasha Guthrie. I spoke to you a few weeks ago regarding serious concerns going on in the Anchorage School District. As a community, all we have heard from you is that you are going to look into possible policy changes. Parents and students came before you to talk about violence and no mental health resources in our schools. Alaska has the 3rd highest suicide rate in the U.S. Out of every 100,000 children, 41.3 will commit suicide between the ages of 15 to 19. Many children with mental health needs do not receive mental health care. Members of our own state legislature believe that mental health does not belong in our schools. These positions are also being removed from the schools. Every teacher needs some form of mental health training. Kodiak High School had similar issues. They implemented the Safe and Civil Schools Foundation's procedures, which made a massive difference with their student body. They hold every child accountable and follow their guidelines very specifically. I know for a fact you utilize the same curriculum. Their student handbook, they have 13 different sections regarding bullying, harassment, and other forms of violence. The Anchorage School District has 3. By Alaska laws, the governing body of a school shall ensure that a sufficient number of school employees receive periodic training in an approved crisis intervention program to meet the needs of the school population. ASD has this resource and legal obligation. Why isn't this training being utilized properly? Communication is outrageous. When a child gets assaulted or bullied, it takes up to 3 or more hours before the parents get notified, if notified at all. No adult intervening when a child is in danger, even if the teachers are causing the harms themselves. When parents request documents and videos, they are being advised by the schools they cannot show the evidence due to other minors being involved. They also stated it violates the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Well, refusing to let parents see these videos of their child is a violation of FERPA. According to the Department of Education, photos and videos are considered educational records. Under FERPA guidelines, a school or state education agency must provide a parent with an opportunity to inspect and review their child's educational records within a reasonable period of time, but not more than 45 calendar days following that request. The policies and procedures and the federal laws which are being violated and ignored here should be under investigation immediately. I told you before, we will not stop until you make changes. Do not look into possible policy changes. Make the drastic changes needed prior to your departure. If nothing is done, then I will start the recall petition process. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next on the list, Joey Caterniccio. Mr. Caterniccio, if you can hear me, if you press *6, that will unmute you. I believe Mr. Caterniccio is no longer online. We'll check back in a little bit. Mr. Evan Sheldon, who should be here in person. Mr. Sheldon, are you here? Thank you. Thank you. You can be kind of close to the microphone and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I misplaced my notes before I came here. I've been busy with my kids. Yeah, I want to second everything that Miss Guthrie said because a lot of things that she said did make sense, and that's the reason I'm here is to talk about the bullying that's happening. My child, he goes to West High, and there's times where he's getting bullied by a guy, like the biggest kid there, that's 6'7", getting bullied, and then next day the kid's in school, and I'm like a mama bear to my kids in reality, and I'm really trying to hold my composure right now. My kid has been trying his best in school. He's a good kid. Last week he was trying to help out a kid that was got threatened by getting stabbed outside school, outside West High. And they got chased by the other kids. And the thing is, my kid's trying to help out somebody and try to bring them to safety and whatnot. My issue is, why is my son getting suspended from school and his education is being messed with by him missing school because he's only trying to help out. And the thing is, last week there was a threat that some kids might get shot at that school, and my son was only trying to help out the kids, and I had no help from the principal. And I have, this is my first time here. I mean, I'm not used to stepping up and speaking in public, but my concerns are how we're gonna settle this issue with all the bullying that goes at that school and everything that Miss Guthrie said right before me. I took to heart because I see that same thing that's happening in school. Everything that she says, I second. And I just want my voice to be heard. I want my kid to further his education, and he wants to join sports. He wants to be a barber one day. He has a lot of goals, but he's always being shut down by somebody because he's Alaska Native. And we get that a lot. We kind of feel that. And race issue is really big at that school. And my kids tell me all the time. They're always talking about different races, this, that, everybody's separated. Why is there a separation? I don't know. Everybody's the same. We all bleed red. And I know
Your time is up. Thank you for coming. If you want to wrap up real quick. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Let me circle back. Mrs. Caterniccio, are you available to testify? Still not online. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on non-agenda or non-agenda items tonight? Seeing no one approaching the microphone, we will move to the consent agenda, which is before you. Item number 145 is pulled. Does anyone on the board wish to pull any other memorandums before we proceed? Member Lessons.
We pull memo 154, please.
Memorandum 154 is pulled. Anyone else? Seeing no hands, do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda minus items 145 and 154. If there's no objection, then these will be approved. Thank you. Action items. The first action item is memorandum 145. And Mr. Dale Miller signed up to testify on that. Thank you for coming, Mr. Miller. You have 3 minutes.
Board members, Superintendent, my name is Dale Miller. Like Ms. Bellamy, I've been associated with Anchorage School District for a lot of years, 50 plus years going to school, working for the school district, and then work for the Teamsters. I no longer work there. So my involvement now with the Anchorage School District is I'm a taxpayer. And it's a considerable involvement in my opinion. So I'm glad that you guys had this on the consent agenda. I'm glad that you're looking to pass it. I just wanted to speak to it as a taxpayer and let you know that although I don't work with the Teamsters anymore, I still support those guys that I worked with for 30 years and represented for many years after that. And I believe that, you know, bang for the buck with this group of folks, all things being equal, they do it better, faster, and cheaper than anybody. So my concern as a taxpayer is that you guys are wise with your money, and I think that you're getting very good service for the money that is being spent here. And so I would definitely am in support of this memorandum. I would be remiss if I didn't say that I know in this there's a health opener, and I've talked to some of you guys about it before. Not as much as I'd like to, but I think that there's considerable savings that could be had. 7 or 8 figures type of savings. And if the school district is actually interested in saving money and actually have budget concerns, I think that this is an item that should be looked at more carefully. And I know that with an opener, maybe the board should take a more active role in taking a look at this. I think there's plenty of information there, but in my opinion, the Anchorage School District does as good as they can with healthcare. They try as hard as they can, but to be quite honest, they can't offer what was being offered to them. It's just, you know, logistics type of a thing. However many souls they have in the plan are getting their health care in the most expensive state in the union. And if there's a way to smooth that and save the district, and like I said, millions of dollars, I think that the district should be willing to take a real serious look at that. So that's all I have to say. I'm glad that you guys are favorable in this, and yeah, great. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to item 145? Please come to the podium. If you'll please state your name for the record, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Derek Musto. I'm the organizer and Teamster representative for the warehouse and maintenance group. Behind me is a number of our bargaining unit members, as well as Kelsey Taylor, a fellow business agent. I was the chief spokesperson for the negotiations. On behalf of our members, I respectfully ask that the board accept and approve this item. The agreement was negotiated in good faith by the union and with our members on behalf of the bargaining team, and was recently ratified with majority support. Despite not keeping up with inflation, this agreement contains some of the needed wage increases and improvements that will allow the district and the union to address recruitment and retention and further negotiate over healthcare to provide healthcare benefits and explore savings for the membership. This bargaining unit is full of unsung heroes that generally work behind the scenes, who create and maintain, in large part, the environment that is necessary for our children to safely learn in each day. From auditorium technicians, tradesmen of all types, equipment operators, grounds personnel, HVAC technicians, couriers, warehouse personnel, and many other classifications I don't have time to list tonight. Almost every item in the district that the district uses, or the staff or the students use, and depend on each day, is provided, maintained, housed, transported, and handled by our members. Over the last number of years, personnel numbers in this work group have dwindled despite deferred maintenance and operational needs increasing. Our members worked through COVID while others did not, will be found working on bad weather days when others are not, and frequently work after hours, overnight, and on weekends to operate and maintain over 100 buildings across the district. On behalf of all of our members present behind me, as well as those who were not able to attend this evening, we respectfully ask you to support this, and we thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to Memorandum 145? Seeing no one approaching the podium, public hearing on 145 is ended. Can I have a motion from the board to adopt Memorandum 145?
Mr. President, I move to approve and adopt the tentative agreement between the district and Teamsters Local 959 representing warehouse and maintenance workers, which will establish terms and conditions of employment for individuals in this unit from the date of ratification to June 30, 2026, known as ASD Memorandum number 145.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion by the board. Member Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to express appreciation for the members of this bargaining group, both who are here tonight and who aren't. When we hear lawmakers in Juneau urging reductions to administrative and support services, this is one of the units they're talking about. And functions in our school simply couldn't happen. Our teachers couldn't engage in the amazing work that they do without the support of these members. And so I'm appreciative of their service to the district and to our municipality. And I'm grateful that we have a tentative agreement that all sides can live with. So I plan to support the memorandum. Thank you.
Any other board comments? Member Bellamy. Oh, your wife.
Oh, my new role.
Right.
Really, I think the key words for me were good faith and majority approval. If those two issues did not apply, I would have a problem with this. But we just heard that they do, so I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Member Higgins.
Thank you. I know that anytime I've sat at negotiation tables in the past, and I know that anytime an agreement is reached, both parties have to look at it. I appreciate the administration's role as well as the union in this case. I also share the concerns there that because of finances, we're not able to place at the table everything that should be there. We are in a situation where it's difficult to recruit and retain, and I just appreciate the staff that's there and what they're doing under these circumstances. I hope can address that more favorably in the future, but I really am very appreciative for both groups that worked through this agreement. Thank you.
Any other board member? Member Watson.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you to everyone who participated in settling the contract. I'm just deeply grateful for the many roles that our Teamsters team plays in our schools, for the ways you guys help our kids live and learn and play in safe and welcoming places so they get the things that they need to learn and grow and thrive. So thank you very much.
Any other comments? I'll simply add that one of the things that often occurs to me, and this is because we're in the middle of the legislative session, education funding is a hot topic. And very often, people talk about the money's got to go in the classroom. It's got to be, and usually they're saying we want it to go to teachers. We want it to be all about teachers and students. But having worked in the district, retired from the district, I know that it requires bus drivers, it requires a warehouse, it requires cafeteria and staff, it requires IT workers, and it requires secretarial staff. While a lot of people, I think, get carried away and like to bash administration of somewhere that we can just cut and cut every time we get a chance, the reality is all the different parts of ASD exist to support the classroom and make it possible for the thousands of students to show up every day, get educated, and move on. So I do very much appreciate the work you do. You're right in there beside of our teaching staff and all of our other support staff, making things happen for students every day. Seeing no other hands, I will put the item before you. If you will call the roll and take a vote.
Member Higgins? Member Donley?
Yes.
Member Jacobs?
Yes.
Member Lessons?
Yes.
Member Wilson?
Yes.
Member Bellamy?
Yes.
President Holloman?
Yes. Thank you. You have approved Memorandum 145. The next item on our agenda is Memorandum 154, Acceptance of Grant Award. Member Lessons, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I wanted to really share my observation that I think that the objectives in this grant are really marvelous. I'm supportive of it, excited for it, grateful for it. I wonder if the administration could just share a little bit about the vision or objectives for maybe years 2 and 3 to see where this is going. And I don't know, tell us a little bit more about, we were talking about grants the other day in finance, and just tell us a little bit more about this grant.
Mr. Anderson.
Sure. To the president, to member Lessons. So this grant really kind of needed to wait until we had traditional food service in elementary schools going. And now we just put our 10th elementary school into traditional food service. We've been working this one for a while, and it's time to implement. So by year 3, our goal is to grow from 5% locally produced products in the student nutrition system to 15%. And we're doing that by partnering with Rural Cap, which you may have seen their table at the Alaska State Fair. If you went there, also the Alaska Food Company, they're a liaison with Alaska Agriculture and Production, and of course, Copper River Seafood, widely known to everyone. And we'll be working with those 3 organizations to develop not just locally produced foods, but this grant will also cover some equipment so we can change the way we're cooking and actually use fresh food. And we'll have a couple pilot schools, and naturally we will continue to push for more grants to expand this program and into the future.
Just speaking personally, thinking back to about 3 years ago when I joined the board, I think one of the first meetings involved me talking about a vision for serving more salmon in our school. So it's nice to see us head in that direction, and some other good things, I think.
Thank you. And I believe I failed to get a motion for 154. And
Mr.
Member
Chair.
Jacobs is going to say things on this.
I will happily move to approve ASD Memorandum number 154 to accept the FY24 Partnerships for Local Agriculture and Nutritional Transformation or Plants Grant to Student Nutrition for $111,563 for the Anchorage Student Nutrition Food System Transformation Project that will occur from 5/1/24 of 9/30/24. This funding is for year 1 of a 3-year grant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Is there anyone who wishes in the audience that wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there any other discussion by board members? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. You will call the roll, please.
Member Bellamy? Member Bellamy? Member Lessons?
Yes.
Member Wilson?
Yes.
Member Higgins? Member Jacobs?
Yes.
Member Donley?
Yes.
Student Representative Pack?
Yes.
President Holloman?
Yes. You have passed memorandum 154. That completes our action items. Next on the agenda are non-action items. Are there any that board members wish to pull for discussion tonight? Member Lessons.
Can we pull memo 133?
Which number?
Memorandum 133, approval of master plan and space planning for Bryantt High School.
Okay.
Item 2.
Thank you. Any others? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to any of the non-agenda items? Seeing no one approaching the podium, Member Lessons, you wish to speak?
Sure. This is a remarkable and very large memo. Both the supporting documents are sizable and take some time to read through. I think what's being proposed is a significant transformation of Bryantt High School, both from a facility standpoint and then down the future for its impact on student learning. So I was hoping the administration could talk everybody through what's proposed.
Mr. Anderson and team.
That's that members of the panel will introduce themselves and
All right. My name is Larry Morris. I'm with Capital Planning, Construction, Planning and Design. I'd like to introduce the people here. On my right, Amy Yurko with Brain Spaces, Evelyn Russo with MCG, Explore Design Architects, Sean Prince, the principal at Bartlett, and Valerie Ballerud, incoming principal at Bartlett. Just to let you know, MCG has been doing school design for both new schools and renovations for decades. They are involved a lot with the school district. And Amy at Brain Spaces out of Chicago has been doing, well, I know she's been for about 20 years, has been doing educational planning for the school district as part of educational specifications. Following. Couple of things I'd like to bring up is kind of what a master plan is for a school facility and kind of what it isn't. A master plan takes, in this case, a school, and does a dive into how the facility operates,
both as an actual physical facility and how it operates in support of what's in it, in this case, support of education. But it also goes into things like some efficiencies, both in various forms, including time efficiencies for space planning and things like that. What it isn't is a very deep dive that actually lays out everything that needs to be done. That will happen as we get into further design, assuming that the board approves this plan. Couple of things. You will get a video, which is not able to put up, but actually shows principal putting a large card through exterior wall of the school. Kind of one of those things that says we've got a building that probably needs a little bit of love. So other things that kind of indicate is that Bartlett has an EUI, which is called Energy Utilization Intensity. Basically, it's a way to compare buildings on how much energy it uses per square foot. We have at Bartlett 160. To put it in perspective, when I was at Fairbanks School District, we had high schools in the low 70s. So well over twice the usage, of which ended up coming up to $850,000 a year just for that. And then maintenance. As you get older, some of us, we need a little more maintenance. And in fact, for maintenance work orders, they've averaged 575 work orders a year. That's for a work day, that's over twice, 2 a day. And work hours is over 3,300 hours in work orders for this school a year. And the work order system did not track preparatory time or travel time. So you're actually getting up close to 4,000. This comes out to 2 full-time equivalent persons just strictly at Bartlett. Obviously, it's different people, but you know, we can't afford to do that. And that materials and labor came out to 590,000 on average per year. So from there, we're going to get into the master plan, and I'm going to let Evelyn and Amy kind of take you through it.
Thanks. So we have a presentation. That's kind of an encapsulation, like summarization of the plan that we sent you. So I apologize for all the pages. Hopefully you got through at least the first part. We tried to make it visual. Let's see if our slides come up. All right. So this is just obviously the presentation. So we can go right on to the next slide, please. Okay, is that better? Okay. So, you want to take this one? I'll go for it. Oh, next one, next slide, please. Okay, so this slide basically says what Larry was just talking about. The reason why we're doing this is basically for to reduce the maintenance and energy efficiency issues, which go to the condition of the aid and condition of the overall facility, but also it's the educational adequacy. And the little graphic that you see there is sort of a timeline of when different parts of the building were added. It was built in 1971 as 2 separate schools, which is kind of interesting, correctly. And over the years, it's had some minimal renovations here and there, and 2 additions, one the theater and one the cafeteria. That's kind of the summary of that, why we have a master plan. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, this is our, oh, it's backwards. That's our agenda. Sorry, we'll go with that one. Thank you.
So the process included looking at the building both technically and educationally. So we wanted to look at, the components where you can see daylight through an exterior wall. But what we also thought it was very important to look at how well does the existing building support the teaching and learning that's happening there, and where are those gaps? So for that exercise, when we call that educational adequacy, we worked closely with Sean and his team, teachers, and we toured the school and we interviewed folks who were there using the building on the ground, students included, and got a series of insights for how the building was working towards teaching and learning. So that in combination with the district standard ed specs, which I wrote, so it was easy to use, to compare what we say we want to have every school for equity reasons and for educational reasons to what we actually have and what we use. So the technical assessment looked again at the systems and lifespan of the systems and materials and other elements of the design. The educational adequacy looked at it, how well is it serving needs educationally. The combination of those two elements come together to define and inform the master plan strategies. So when we're looking for strategies, we look for those areas that are technically maybe inadequate and educationally inadequate. How can we focus on those to improve both? And sort of I hate to kill two birds with one stone issue, but look for how to maximize those dollars to address both needs. But also there are some areas that were technically okay, but educationally not so great, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So the master plan really looked at combining all of those and addressing all of the needs in a very conceptual way.
No, and I'll just say the process took about a year ago, we had to kick off. Last summer we had engineers crawling all over the school, looking at all the different systems. And when everybody was back, Amy started working with the community. There was also a survey, you mentioned that. And then since January, the two of us have been, as she said, marrying the two things together to see what that means for a renovation project and starting to look a little more deeply at this. But again, at a very high conceptual level, what would it cost? So that's where we are right now. That's what we're reporting back to you, the results of that.
So the next slide. One of the elements we start out with is synthesizing all of what we heard into a series of goals, so that when we look through the master plan, the final master plan, we have sort of a series of metrics to say whether we achieved what we were attempting to achieve. And so what you see here is a synthesis of goals and sort of our success metrics, if you will, to what was needed to be addressed in the school. What you also see there is there are things about Bartlett High School that are really fantastic, and they're assets to the school, whether those are traditions or perspectives. You see some of those listed there. And we knew that whatever we do with facilities, we don't want to mess those up. So what are the things that are great about the school that we need to make sure that are maintained? So there's a series of things that were included in the considerations. The next slide also takes the insights we gained from our user sessions and our survey and the feedback, and again looked at from the facility standpoint, what are those goals? And you can again read through those and again became sort of our success metrics to go through and make sure that every space has flexible use and that every space has student success as a metric for evaluating how well the building supports teaching and learning. So those are just technology we looked at, the lighting, we looked at all of these things. So I think we can go to the next slide. Allison. Yeah.
Anyone else have comments?
Yeah. If you want to step in on any of those.
Yeah.
I just like that last slide because it had three of our students there, looking at three students, one that's currently at Yale in his third year, the other one's in there, she's in her third year at Stanford, and the other one's at NYU. They were our two
co-valedictorians and then the salutatorian. Just thinking about the history, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary. So yes, it is an aged school, but like many good things with age, they get refined, and it does need an update. You're going to probably see some slides where we have, you know, small group of shrubberies that will soon become trees growing out of our roof. It was not a sleight of hand to show the car that's actually going through the wall and then to the exterior. I know that I've fixed 22 bursted pipes in the building while I was there in 1 year. There's a lot of need when you have an older building. There's a lot of good that happens, and I think as education has changed over the last 50 years, the needs of the students have also changed. I know that we still have the remnants of what used to be an open floor or an open education model where they have 3 classrooms all teaching 3 different things at once. And then when they realized that was a really bad idea, they threw up some pretty hastily made plywood walls to segregate those classes into different places. You can still see those around the school. I mean, I've been at Bartlett for 21 years, and I've seen it change just in those 2 decades. So a refresh is needed, and I also know that an $83 million price tag seems like a lot, but when you consider 1.3 million is lost to maintenance and energy loss inefficiencies each year, it doesn't take very long to realize that you've already, you know, you're going to make up 1/8 of that total cost in a short amount of time if you don't make a change, right? So I think the time is now for sure.
Well, let's look at the next slide as well. Back one. There we go. And just to make a note that we know how small these images are on that sheet. They were just included to illustrate an example of how we documented the opportunities and challenges of the building. We do have some boards in the back of the room that have larger, more legible versions of those. And of course, the master plan document has larger versions. But what we did is diagrammed out the building in terms of the key things that needed to be addressed technically, and then look for opportunities in the plan where we could make the most impact. So that's what you see in the red notes are the sort of challenges, and the green notes are opportunities. And actually, as we dove into the building, while there's some real technical challenges, it's kind of an interesting design that has a lot of potential. So we wanted to maximize that potential in the master plan strategies. Next slide, please.
So this slide is talking mostly about the technical challenges that we had through the facility assessment. And the facility assessment is based on DED standards. So we're looking at, you know, if things are at the end of their useful life, but really it's about safety, security, code compliance. I guess that's safety and security, resiliency, sustainability, you know, all things that you want from your schools to make them easy to maintain, to make them safe and fun places for your students to be. And I just showed some images here that show some of the deficiencies. You know, everything from the trees growing from the tree farm, as I call it, on the roof, which, you know, some I don't know, positive things to you can see servers that are in storage rooms, which they should not be because they create a lot of heat and it's not great. Doors in poor shape. Lockers. Kids don't use lockers as much and they're not in great shape. So that's something else to think about. Mechanical equipment that's old, past the end of its life. And even the fabulous Commons has a railing that's not code compliant. So all of these things put together, I mean, Bartlett is a wonderful building and has what we call good bones and a good place to go. But it does need some TLC, and just wanted to give you a sense of all the things we looked at as part of this facility assessment and master plan. So next slide, please.
So our 4 plan strategies are illustrated here, and again, just a diagrammatic as Larry was mentioning earlier, that we laid out the building in a way that made sense for CTE academies, for some of the other initiatives that are being discussed, for right-sized classrooms, for teacher workspaces that have supervision of common spaces. We also looked at organizing the building in a way that would clarify some of the circulation and in other words, the hallways and stairways and make those not just more easy to navigate, but also safer, and less nooks and crannies for bullying and some of the other things that might be happening there. So the strategy was to make wayfinding, all that wayfinding to make it clearer, and more streamlined, while also organizing the building in ways that support the teaching and learning strategies that are more current.
Yeah, I think overall making it more visible, everything going on in the building in a way.
Learning on display.
Yeah,
Great stuff.
Yeah.
So the next slide. And so it needs to have control of the upper floors of the building as well. And you can see here some of the upper floors and the other strategies. The list of actions just gives you a summary of those things that I just mentioned, clarifying wayfinding, security and safety, things like that are illustrated in the plans that are listed there. And in case you're not a visual learner, the list is there to supplement. So the next slide, please. We also zoomed in, if you will, we went into the floor plan with a bit more detail to make sure it would all work. As Mr. Morris mentioned, we're not designing it at this point, but we wanted to make sure the strategies that are being recommended actually are workable and actionable. So this is just a sampling of one of those wings off of the building and shows how we're looking to reorganize some of the spaces, put those spaces that need tall ceilings and high and big spaces like career tech spaces in the spaces of the school that are big and tall. And at the moment we have preschool in a space that is one of the tallest buildings in the school. So here's the littles in a really huge space. So sometimes it's just about putting the right label on the door. It's not always about making big, other changes. So that's what you'll see here. Also addressing the need for right sizing classrooms. So you'll see some of the walls move a little bit. And since those walls are not really permanent walls anyway, we can make those now more acoustically separated and right sized at the same time. So we're doing that two birds thing again. But this is an illustration or example of the zoom in that we did for all the components of the school, which you can see in the master plan. This is just one example. We have a few more examples on the boards back there. The next slide, please.
Okay, so this slide is sort of talking about the different levels of renovation, and really the blue parts are the parts that are sort of, I would call it almost like that renovation in terms of maybe new mechanical systems that are beyond the end of their useful life, new roofs, new flooring, all the walls for the most part will come out. We'll redo the bathrooms. It's a pretty major project, and that's the blue. And as you can see, it's most of the school. There are some places that have been more recently renovated that are in the green. And then it should be no surprise that there are parts of the school, specifically the theater wing that was completed, I think in 2006, perhaps, I think it's about right, which really only needs what I'm calling traditional maintenance. There's nothing there that's a big, large project. So it's not really included in our plans for renovation. Those things would just be part of the normal summer maintenance at those parts of the school, but they've been identified in the facility assessment as something that needs to be done.
Like painting, little stuff.
Yeah, painting, maybe changing out a light fixture here or there. I mean, really, we found it's holding up really well. And I want to say, despite all the maintenance issues they have, it's a lot of small things falling apart. They do take a very good care of the school overall. The janitorial staff does, but they can't, keep pipes from bursting by dusting and vacuuming and things of that nature. So that just kind of gives you a visual of the amount of work that needs to be done. I also want to mention we'll be replacing all of the exterior panels and putting new windows in, which will bring more light in as well. They are also, paper going through the wall.
It'll also help with the energy efficiency.
And very much with the energy efficiency and the new roof. So next slide, please. But we didn't forget about the site. Part of our analysis looked at how well the site complies with Title 21 of the municipality of Anchorage. But also, I think the big takeaway for us was there was a lot of drainage issues in the parking lot that are unsightful and can be dangerous, but also there are not clear pedestrian paths, pedestrian, vehicular, and bus paths. And so sort of redoing the outside, bringing it up to code with Title 21, trees, new sidewalks, easy to recognize drop-off spots to make it safer for the kids, are all part of the master plan.
A preschool play area.
Oh,
is
yes,
protected.
play area that's protected. I will say this master plan did not address, even though we talk about in the facility assessment, the plan does not address the playing fields or the pool. That was outside of the scope of what we were looking at specifically in this plan. So I should make that clear. Okay, next slide, please. And Ms. Lessons asked me earlier about phasing. This is our, as Larry said, this is, or Mr. Morris said, this is very conceptual, but we did want to at least do a small dive, a very shallow dive into how we might accomplish this. And so we have identified 3 separate phases that we imagine would be a bunch of summer work and then work that goes on during the school year in certain parts that can be segregated. So there's a core phase and a phase for each of the wings. And then areas that I call flexible areas that could probably go in and out depending on how the money flows, how we want to see the money flow, basically. Because that's a big part of doing a phasing, like how much money you're going to have when can you actually afford to do this work. So as we move into concept design, we can do a deeper dive into this. But we do think it's workable, though it won't be easy. We'll have to be clear that work will go on during the school year, whether it's goes on at night or we segregate areas of the building, that all needs to be determined. But it can't all be done in one summer, I'm afraid.
So one of the strategies or parameters to work within is where will the students be accommodated while there's renovation happening in a portion of the building. And so part of the plan does look at when we do an analysis of square footage per student and the number of teaching stations, we do have some excess there because of the enrollment declining. And so we have excess. We feel like there's about 25% of the space that's excess that can be used more, scheduled more tightly to make way for the phasing implementation strategies to without having to move students off site.
Yes, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Yeah, so looking at swing space, we think that this strategy of doing a bunch of work in the summer and then doing these small discrete pieces during the school year will help us make sure that the kids can continue to learn undisturbed, uninterrupted.
Thinking about it from the principal's perspective, I know when we did the update to the theater, replacing the old theater, we had 2,200 students at Bartlett High School and we had 8 relocatables outside the classroom. And it very much was an issue of feeling like a salmon trying to get between the hallways. And that was to redo the whole front office area, the complete fine arts wing and the theater. At the time I was a teacher on a cart. So I was in 4 different classrooms during prep hours and having to go in between classrooms and manage that. So having, 600 less students and a lot more flexibility. I think a plan that is phased in like this is very doable and still, well within the margins of what we think is acceptable.
Yeah, that out. Okay, let's see the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the big number slide. So again, this is very conceptual. Our cost estimators did a lot of forecasting and asking lots of questions that we didn't necessarily have answers to at this time. But we think it's going to be a total of about $83 million. And that is just for the construction costs. It doesn't include your permitting, your design fees or other things like that. Which may sound like a lot, but to replace this building would be over $200 million. So it is something of a bargain in that sense. If you look at it that way, no one's smiling at that, damn it.
You can smile at the fact that in 10 years, you'll spend $13 million if you do nothing.
Yeah, there's that good, that's a good point. But I also like to say that keeping this building and rebuilding it, because it is a great building, is the biggest thing we can do to be sustainable and build sustainability and resilience in the school district. I think it's a really great thing to be able to do and not just throw the old away. So it's, you know, all usable stuff. And I've broken out some just random things there that what they cost to give you an idea of how quickly this money adds up to 83 million when you're doing something as extensive as we are proposing to do with this building, which is putting in new elevators, putting in new stairs, all new mechanical equipment, mechanical shafts, all of that. It's pretty extensive.
The new elevator is actually something that's been a constant bane in my existence for the last few years, because we have one elevator that goes up 5 floors. It works part of the time. And that's not really a joke. We go weeks without the elevator working. We have to wait on parts that get there. And in the meantime, we're trying to shift classes for wheelbound students or students who are on crutches, and it is very difficult to maneuver. And this new plan adds the redundancy of 2 smaller elevators so that you could be able to access all of the floors. And if one went down, you have that redundancy to continue to move students instead of trying to relocate entire classes based on the needs of individual students. So the safety and the idea of every time the elevator goes down, we have to rehearse with the team about if there is an evacuation again, like when we had the earthquake and the entire 5th floor was destroyed, what we have to do to actually evacuate students safely off the 5 floors. Right? Med sleds, carrying people downstairs. This is something we have to think and plan. So the redundancy of having new elevators on top of a build like this is definitely a needed expense, whether we want it.
A couple of things I wanted to bring up, though, to kind of put a little of this into perspective. The size of this facility is almost equivalent of 6 elementary schools. So, you know, when you divide it up for a full renovation of an elementary school, it's actually not that bad. It's not cheap, without a doubt. But this school serves a very wide number of people, and like it has been told, it has good bones. It does need a lot of love, and you know, the site-wise, it's quite a bit bigger than in an elementary. We've done a lot of elementary, but we've done a lot of high schools that we have not done a lot of work. And it's getting time for a couple of them, because I review work orders, energy, and stuff like that all the time. And you can tell that some of them are starting to just plain get old, and they're using a lot more. Wayfinding. I can find my way through woods, forests, but I've been lost twice in that school. So we're also working on ways of reducing some of the square footages and making the wayfinding easier. That would reduce some of the capacity over time, that would help out. But this, and I hate spending money, but this is actually a good project. And if you look at our CIP, 6-year CIP, we total actually a little over $80 million that's already been planned for it. So it's not, it's a shock on a page, but it's not a shock over the entire capital improvement plan.
Yeah, our last slide, question and answers.
Can I just add, just to note, as the person who places the work orders for the building currently, my daily routine consists of a walkthrough to see which rooms are sitting at 90-degree temperatures and which ones are sitting at 50 degrees. And if you look at my call roster, you'll see that Jeremy Colson, who is amazing operations, by the way, is like, I call as much as I do my husband, because there's so many things happening on a daily basis. Our parents are calling and complaining, why does my student have to wear a coat in Miss Pierce's classroom, but in Mr. Reed's room, you know, they have to be wearing shorts to be accommodated. So just those daily fluctuations. I didn't know that when I took the job at Bartlett, I would be getting a plumbing internship, little light electrical work. I mean, the things that I've learned just in being there, it's been a pretty amazing experience, but it's not something that should be occupying my time or my teacher's time. I just really encourage you to look through this. This is something that our building desperately needs and our students just so very much deserve. So I just really appreciate your consideration.
Any other questions from the board? Member Lessons?
Thank you all very much. And I guess when I say all, like it's the many, many people that have been a part of this process. This may be directed more towards administration over here or at Dr. Bryantt. How are we paying for this? Is this going through a bonding process? Are we aggressively pursuing every grant available for energy efficiency? I mean, it is a really big project, but we're doing phases. So if we are bonding, do we have to do a bit at a time? Are we doing one really big bond package? Can you talk us through all of this?
Of course. So it is a 3-phase plan. And it is possible you could partially split up portions of a phase, but we'll be working through the school year anyway, in many parts of some of those areas. And we have really been pushing for DOE grants this year. Everything from propane buses, which we'll be putting in shortly, through other energy and cost savings things that Member Higgins has brought up multiple times this year. And we're really looking at the DOE grants that are the Department of Energy grants that are out there. That would be part of it. Naturally, it wouldn't be a bake sale, it would be a bond. That would be part of it. And as we roll this out, assuming the board approves it in 2 weeks, and start finalizing designs and getting it closer, we'll be trying multiple different funding streams.
So if I can just follow up, so it sounds like we will be seeing this when we next look at the 6-year CIP.
I would suspect that it will be in next fall's CIP. Yes, ma'am.
Member Bellamy?
So just so I'm clear, the 2020 bond is what we use to do this planning, right? Is that how it goes? Because this was on the 2020 bond. I know it wasn't, let's see.
It came out of when we bonded, we had an area for planning and design.
So this was part of that, though.
This was
Okay.
part of that for a small portion, just to get us started, because our last master plan for this school was 1998. A couple of things have changed since then. And it was time to refresh and take new looks at the building. You'll see if you go to the 6-year CIP plan, I believe we have on 25 and 27 and maybe even 29 somewhere, but we have a total of, I think it comes to $81 million to all of them. As we go through design, those numbers will get redefined as we get into it. These have a lot of estimating contingencies because the estimators, you know, some of it, he doesn't have the fine details of what he's pricing. So they put a pretty good contingency. But as we go into design, we're getting ready to start what we would call conceptual. We will start taking a look even further into the pricing.
So all things considered, in terms of time, if we were able to get all the money we need and we approve this next week, how many years out are we looking? Assuming we get everything we need, every dime.
We would be probably finished in about 7 years.
So let's see, those Bartlett Bears are right now in grade what, 6? Thank you.
It's actually my son's graduating class, 2000.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's a 6th grader.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Higgins?
Thank you. There are two issues here that jump out at me. I remember when Service High School, they wanted to do the remodel. We had gone through bonds to try to get the thing done. And there were things that could have been done. We were waiting for that to get done for the bond that we held back and didn't have to. One was the efficiency of the boiler system, which was really bad. And there were options out there within the state and other groups, even vendors, that would basically have paid to do that, and we pay them back out of the savings. Are those programs still out there? I know the state had one, but there were vendors out there that we could be doing that within not just Bartlett, but other schools as well, in regards to that type of option. Are those, are we familiar with that, or have we looked into that at all?
When I was at Dean, there was the programs to do some of that, and it was some of the companies would front up the money for the project, and then they would get paid from the energy savings as you're going along. But the problem is you still have to acquire debt to do it, because you have acquired debt to that company, because if you don't make it, you still have to cover the money.
Yeah, I realize you have to have a commitment to do it, but it was an opportunity, and we could do it in a number of different ways. You're right. We've got an obligation if, for whatever reason, we promise that we're going to pay it back, but they take it out of savings, and it would have expanded the amount that we could get done very quickly, and we could expand it to a lot of programs. If it's a question of how we do that obligation for debt, we'll look at that. But if we can take advantage of that for somebody, it was working for, I attended those sessions with the state because I was interested for the lighting, for the heating systems, for anything energy efficiency. The state actually had something. This wasn't the vendor, where you could basically, they would put it up front and you pay it back. And then we had vendors as well. And I just want to hope that we explore that option, because it's something out there to do that. The second is, one of the energy efficiency things is, I know they put a control on the use of electricity, because you're paying based upon your peak utilization. So if you're using your laminators at the same time you're doing the ovens and you're doing everything else, your utilities go way up, because it's going to assume the entire day is based on that rate. Are we looking at innovations and changes that we can do like that within these schools? I'm looking for not outside the box, what other people are doing already, that we incorporate and use that as well. I appreciate when I listen to the utilization on this, and I'm familiar with this, and I have to put up when I talk to my brother who's mechanical electrical engineer, God help me. But within this whole process, there are a lot of options out there to bring down the cost. And I just don't know what we're doing and what we aren't doing. I don't care if we look at alternative energy sources as well. Put the solar panels up. I don't care. Except it doesn't work very well for us up here, because it's mostly schools during the winter, so it cuts it out. But I'm just looking to say, what else are we missing in regards to energy efficiency that goes and says we don't have to wait for $80 million before we don't start doing this stuff?
Yes, what you're talking about is load shed. So
That's right.
You're dropping, if wintertime, when you start to get a high demand for electricity, it will automatically reduce in other places based on what your peak demand is at the time. After you reach a certain point, it will actually start reducing other things, dropping the light levels.
Laminating.
There's a lot in there, but yes, that would be part of what we'd be doing, so that your peak demand load drops, so you don't have to pay for it for 12 months just for your peak demand of 15 minutes of one day.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that if there are things we can be doing now, we should have been doing years ago, but we need to be doing it quickly, not just for this location, but throughout throughout Anchorage with all the schools. And I know that when we looked at the issue of the state funding for the like the boiler system is a big one, and the light. The response from administration at that time was more, well, if we wait for bond and we don't have to pay it back, and it's being paid out of the bond. That was not what you call cost conscious, and it wasn't, in my opinion, public service the way to do it. I want to make sure that we're not doing that again, that we're not passing up opportunities to be able to deal with the energy efficiencies that are out there. That's what my biggest concern is.
I think I can add to this. So for the last 2 years, we've been using ESSER dollars to upgrade our HVAC airflow systems. And so now remotely, we can turn stuff on to whatever temperature we want just in time to have it warm as students and staff are walking in the morning. And then by school remotely, we're adjusting those at night and in the afternoons, depending on whether they have evening activities at their schools. And that really was designed to reduce the energy costs for the heating systems. The Siemens infrastructure that we have in the district is the largest plant in the state. And we've upgraded that a couple different times in the last 4 or 5 years, increasing and adding new modules. Whenever there's a new construction, modification, renovation, we're generally going to, I think it's every time, LED lighting. We're doing a number of things all the time. And I can give us some folks and we can come up with something for a future board connect. But, the state's capital grants, and I think the one you're talking about 4, 5, 6 years ago, leadership in the state started cutting capital funding all across the state, down to almost shuttering a ferry in order to reduce costs. And a lot of the grants that we used to be able to get simply aren't there to include legislative straight write-ins. What we are seeing, though, is certainly on the Hill this week, we're seeing that they're putting about $56+ million back into grants for education. But the vast majority of that, for those who aren't aware, is going to be the projects that we've already completed. The capital plan submitted last fall. It got approved by the Board of Education in January, signed by the governor, and there's a statewide 1 to N list of all these projects that we've actually already completed. So that's the $56+ million that's bouncing around Juneau right now is for those reimbursable grants. Now, for the rural areas, it's not reimbursable because they don't have a bonding system or a tax base. So for them, it's a little bit different, but we have actually scored quite well in the last, many years, better than the rest of the big five. A lot of that is because Larry worked at Deed, understands how to build the packages, how to set yourself up for success. And we've been very successful when there was capital money, but that energy efficiency thing, because we looked at it a few years ago, it was one of the ones that just kind of went out. So now we're looking at DOE grants and trying to look for things that we can get from the federal government, which is the same thing, just different source of funding.
Well, I remember it being 10+ years ago when this was out there, and it was not just for public, it was private as well, the availability. So it wasn't a deed issue. It was bigger than that with the state with funding. And basically you paid it back out of the savings. And as I understand, vendors have the same type of situation. So I'm just interested in expanding our ability to address the maintenance demands in our schools. If it comes to boiler systems, that's going to be paid off out of savings, and we can expand that particular area. We got so much in the way of deferred maintenance that we just need to look at that, lighting, you name it. But anything we can do with alternative resources out there, if we can do that, I just hope that we're looking at that.
I think we're in violent agreement.
Member Donnelly.
As the ASD measures occupancy, what's the current occupancy rate of Bartlett now?
The current student population is about 1450.
Yeah, but as a percentage of the capacity.
75%.
And is measured by the State Department of Education. How is it? What's the percentage?
As a per deed, It would be actually at about 60%. So 75% has ASD measures.
So, and is this proposal, well, we know there's no, any of the estimates coming up are that our overall population is going to go down, student population is going to go down. So is this proposal to maintain the current capacity at Bartlett?
It will actually drop the capacity. I can't remember the actual number, but we're taking some things by rearranging and actually making stairwells and openings that we would actually be dropping about 60, 70 students of capacity.
So we'd be going from what's the current maximum capacity as measured by ASD?
I would have to take it.
Okay. I think those would be really crucial numbers to have in a summary, more like an executive summary, like 1 page long. Yeah.
Member Jacobs.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the presentation. Thank you for what you do. Curious, maybe it's a question for district admin, if, because Bartlett is one of our high schools that serves our military families, if that in any way unlocks funding like we receive for Ursa Major, or because it's not on base, those opportunities don't exist. I think I got my answer through a head nod no, which is unfortunate.
That's correct. It's off base.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Member Lessons?
I am not the expert, but I thought I read, and maybe somebody here knows that does it straddle military land and municipal land? I mean, can we not get some credit for that?
We actually do have a lease for a portion of the plat, but that's not the same as the school being within the military base confines.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, my real question, maybe the part's not right. So actually the memo, one of the objectives, one of the bullet points under perfect fact, shared that a goal includes allowing for expanded offerings through technology and distance learning opportunities. And I hate to fixate on that, but it's a little bit of cognitive dissonance to be talking about a brick and mortar facility supporting distance learning opportunities. So can somebody tell me how those two things can be reconciled?
Sure. So as you know, we've now all become quite familiar with distance learning and I actually teach a class that is blended. And so what we're often talking about with distance learning is students being somewhere else and taking a class online. But what the reality is those kiddos have to be somewhere, even if they're taking a class online. So it's not an easy, so it doesn't mean we're relinquishing space on the campus. We may actually be adding different kinds of spaces for students to actually be in the school and taking online classes. So, you know, there's different ways of defining, you know, online learning, and some of it does not include being off-site.
I think if I may follow up, I guess that sounds like it's leaning into it more of like an HR or staffing question, or I don't know. I mean, what then are the visions for, what are the needs for distance learning, for new or additional distance learning in this high school or in all of our high school? No, yes.
Member Lessons, I think each one of our schools has a cyber center that supports offerings for students who may want to take like an online AP Econ class that is not currently supportable by the current teaching staff. But because we have a student who's there 5 of 6 periods but wants to take that class, we have a space with the teacher that can facilitate the technology, the accountability for attendance, and then it allows the student to ride transportation to the school as they would normally, attend a class, take an online course, and then continue with their day seamlessly. Versus like, I think sometimes I agree we could get in that place of like, but this is distance learning. How are we doing that inside the school? It's becoming more and more commonplace.
Okay, thanks. That helps me understand a little bit more about how it can be additive for a student's educational experience to round out the opportunities that they may have, or they may need to have.
Right, that's exactly what happened. So one of the students that we talked about earlier that ended up going to NYU, she needed to take an EP econ class when she was trying to apply for MIT. And that was done through the distance learning process that we had inside, but she was taking the full load inside the school, but we didn't have any econ teacher at that.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I'd like to thank the panel for your time and all the information, and don't do away with the history, but keep the building, and as always, go Bears.
As always.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That brings us to our last opportunity for public comment. Do we have anyone in the room that wishes to speak to agenda or non-agenda items? Seeing no one moving towards the front, we'll go to our superintendent update.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to share that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're approaching the end of the school year, which means that sometimes our routines can become relaxed, and a lot of us are thinking about the end of year, summer, graduations, and that means it's a really important time for our community to remember the importance of mental health and wellness. So I encourage our families to visit our website at asdk12.org/mental health to review the list of services that we offer our students, including our positive behavior interventions and supports framework that's practiced in ASD. And just a thank you to our mental health and student support services staff for all that you do for our community. And speaking of graduations, very proud of our class of 2024, and our graduations are already underway. And on Monday, we'll kick off our Big 8 graduations with Chugiak and Eagle River High School. So congratulations in advance to all of our graduates. I'm looking forward to shaking your hands on the stage. And then lastly, I just want to take a moment to tip my figurative hat to our outgoing president, Member Bellamy, for her 3 years of service as board president. I think those 3 years in particular were times of significant transition for ASD, and you provided that consistency and stability when truly we needed it the most. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you do for ASD. And that concludes my comments.
That brings us to school board and administration comments. I will start way to my left with Member Higgins.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the graduations as well. It was pointed out to me, though, I attended the International Backyard celebration, and that was really interesting. I have to tell you, I attended the first one, and they reminded me there before those kids even started school. So they made their point. Because the first one I attended was 2008, and I was excited by the presentations. I was also excited by the diversity and within the group. It's so much different than what it was before, and I applaud those changes that have done that. And it was a great presentation. And we've got all the others as well. So I'm looking forward to that. My congratulations to all the graduates, but also to the parents and the staff to make this happen, because it didn't happen by itself. Appreciation for the comments from the speakers as well, as always. Within that, and I know that we have a brand new 3 years coming up for people who have just got elected, and anybody else here as well. We enter the next period, and I look forward to coming out with a list of goals and objectives and what we hope to accomplish. Like, you get on their board, and one of the things that you really want to do is say, I got on for a reason, and at the end of that period, I wanted to accomplish some things. And so my list is kind of growing. And I look forward to working with this board and in the structure and with the administration to get those things happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to briefly acknowledge Teacher Appreciation Week, and today is Teacher Appreciation Day. One of the best ways that I think our leaders in Juneau can acknowledge it being Teacher Appreciation Week is by taking concrete action on Senate Bill 88, which is the opportunity for our state to remedy our deficient retirement system for teachers and public employees. Alaska is the only state in our nation where educators don't receive full Social Security benefits or a pension. Sounds like late breaking news is that the subcommittee in House State Affairs is potentially looking at taking action to get the bill out of its subcommittee soon, which is good as the legislative session is drawing to a close. I think it bears repeating that 15,000 current and former educators were surveyed by the Dunleavy administration, and the number one benefit that educators asked for to address recruitment and retention was a return of a pension. And if we truly want to honor our educators, we should listen to them. And this seems like a great week to go a step further than social media posts and take some action to retain our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Donnelly?
I know we have the administration's doing a major community outreach initiative towards the goal of school consolidation. I'm hoping that's going to include the long overdue assessment of boundaries for our elementary schools and our senior high schools. We know we have some schools that are at capacity or even over capacity, while we have other schools virtually adjacent to them down in the 70s and 60% of capacity. So we have not kept up with the demographic changes that have happened around town. And I'm hoping that in this new initiative by the administration, there's going to be a consideration of that, because I don't want to see that continue to get postponed the way it has been.
Member Wilson, sorry.
I got a new name. Graduation theme continues. ASD's digital published last Friday all about our graduation and other shine bright moments. We will be broadcasting the Big 8 graduation starting next week. I want to give a shout out to King Tech. I will be at their graduation this week. ASD will have special coverage as well on Facebook and Instagram. There are special student profiles of our graduates. And a big shout out to Holly and the graduation coordinators for working with Team ASD to make our graduation coverage extra special. So thank you for that work. And the celebrations continue the following week at our next school board meeting with our Denali Awards. Also wanted to share my appreciation to our outgoing president, Ms. Bellamy, Member Bellamy now. It's been an honor to have you lead our board for the last 3 years. So thank you for all of your work. I know you've done a ton of it. Also wanted to share my excitement about our Academies of Anchorage and all of the work and partnership. I know I said it earlier, but that the partnership that community partners have put forth, all of the work that's been done internally in ASD. So I'm excited about the potential for that. And of course, Teacher Appreciation Week. Got to recognize our teachers again. So thank you for all your work and all that you do to support our students and our families.
Thank you. Member Wesson.
Thanks. Another remarkable board meeting, full of lots of thoughtful research and teamwork and collaboration. And I appreciate the chance to ask a lot of questions and have them answered. So I appreciate that from the administration in particular. We do have the Denali Award coming up, but in thinking about Member Bellamy's 50 years of service to ASD, in my mind, I have created a new award. It's called the Mount Hunter Award. This doesn't exist, but so having never summited Denali, nor do I want to do that. What I have learned, though, is that we have Denali, Hunter, and Fork are kind of together on a clear day. You can see them all. Lots of people like to hike Denali. It's a thing to do. It's a big mountain, but Mount Hunter is the most difficult 14,000-foot mountain in North America. Few people attempt to climb, and less than 40% of those who do typically succeed. Gaining Mount Hunter's North Peak is difficult by any route and requires the utmost of stamina, fortitude, and perseverance. And if that doesn't describe you, I don't know what does. So, in my mind, I have created, and maybe we can implement something called the Mount Hunter, the Mount Hunter Award, to accompany the Denali Award. So your time and effort and energy is nothing short of remarkable.
Thank you. Member Bellamy.
Okay, so, anyway, thank you guys. You know, I'm just honored that I have had the opportunity to serve. And of course, your recognition, just make it all the more better, right? So we stay focused on kids. We stay focused on doing what we can to make sure our kids have every advantage that they possibly can. So, and taking care of our staff as well, because, you know, it's Teacher Appreciation Week, but we really need to be appreciating them all year long in some way. And I do thank the staff and the board for your wonderful comments, as well as lovely flowers. I had to hide them. I didn't want to take them, right? I'm taking them home, but they are gorgeous and they smell wonderful. So I thank you for that. And as I said before, you know, the academies, it's transformational stuff. And I know we can do this. I know we can do it. And I know whatever blip comes up, we can fix it, or we can make it work. And, but we gotta hang on and ride through the turbulence, and we will get there, because I can't think of a better opportunity for our kids, equitable opportunity, and access than that vehicle, which we can fuel, and we can run it. And then finally, Sunday is Mother's Day. So I want to wish happy Mother's Day to everybody. Well, not everybody, but all the ladies in the room. All you guys, make sure you do something special for the ladies in your life. So that's it for me. Thank you.
I'll say that Member Wilson gets the award for being the first person I called on incorrectly. And if staff wants to have a pool each meeting of how many times I do that, I won't be offended. I want to thank the combination of antihistamines, cough drops, and lemon iced tea that got me through tonight. But again, I think we covered a lot of it in the comments from the Sine meeting. Again, thank you to staff and everyone that does so much every day to make the system work. Superintendent, do you have any further comments? Anyone on staff? Seeing wisely no hands. I have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
We are in adjournment.